Hello and welcome back to Football Manager for the second to last time on FM20, where we finally have a look at Millwall and at Boston and at Cameroon, at Wales and at Italy, so we can have a look at how I've progressed as a manager and how the clubs have progressed over the last 8 years. So to begin with, we'll obviously look at Millwall. So have a look at the squad first, have a quick look through. Obviously Jovanovski, probably my best sign I've ever made in a Football Manager save. Got Maximiliano Ferrari, a new player signing this season. He was the one that was admittedly probably paid over much. I probably paid too much for him. 70 million. I mean, he started out less than 12 grand, 5.5 million. Oh, I do apologise. I've got a bit of a thingy voice today for some reason. They went £5.5 million to Sporting Lisbon before making a move to us for £70 million. But as you can see, clearly worth it. Obviously, we got Lucas Weatherby joining as well this season. But above him, you can see Mateus, who did manage to finally find his scoring boots last season. 14 goals in 28. Very impressive. Especially when you look at the first season he had with us. 6 from 18. Very good. Obviously, I'd prefer to have it something like his Brazilian scoring record, where he scores 20 goals a season. That would be nice, of course. But either way, he's scoring goals for us. It's very impressive. Doyle, another player that was signed by me a number of seasons ago from Man City for £60 million. I definitely probably paid over for him. We've got Vincinius Leonardo, who's still currently out on international duty, so he won't even play in the Southampton game in 5 days' time. We've got Iban Neto below him, Mario Augusto, Roberto Lopez, who I have to say is probably out of favour at the club now, I have to admit. I mean, he's still a good player, 3.5 stars, very strong player. And prior to last season, he played over 30 games every single year. But he just dropped out completely last season. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had a bad injury. I can't deny that about it. He had a major injury. And he was out for an extended period of time last season. From effectively the 1st of December all the way through until near enough the end of the season. He was out for a very long time. So it really hampered his season last year. But it was unfortunate because he was probably one of our cheapest good signings. £11 million is a very low amount of money. But yet, he's no longer really at the level he once was. He's apparently in his prime, which I won't deny that. He's a very good player still. But I think he's probably out of it with the club. We've got Louis Barry up next, an English striker I signed on a free from Barcelona, who is also probably out of it this season. Didn't even play half the games last season. And yeah, I think like Alvaro, he's probably finished at the club in terms of his capabilities. And given the fact that we have another striker in Stefan Tasic available if Mateus gets injured, it's not really going to be that big of a deal. Plus, you then look at the youth side of the thing, and you'll get players that are coming through the youth team. Where, like for instance, where is he? Adam Lee here from Southampton when we signed him on a free transfer. Lee Smart, another one, a good 19-year-old player who's going to come through as a striker soon. So it's very important we get those players through as well. So it's not really that big of a deal when you think about it. Going back, we've got Jack Scott, another new signing for this season. A right back, 3-star. He's already better than the other 2 right backs. So not really much to do about it, really. Eduardo Yulla, again, 2 brilliant Brazilians that I brought in for, I have to say, probably spent under what needed to be spent on these 2, bringing them in. I mean, combined, they cost less than £35 million, which is less than any player that I signed up this end, except for, I think Iban Noto was brought in for less than that, but I could be wrong. Yeah, brought in for £20 million, which is, again, very, very low amount of money. Then we've got Blas Fernandez, another player that I signed this season, a 21-year-old Argentinian attacking midfielder. Admittedly, according to this, he's actually better player as a central midfielder, but He can play in any of these 3 positions fairly successfully. He's already at 3 stars, potential of 5 stars. He'll probably be one of the dominant players for Millwall in the seasons to come, if he isn't sold, that is. And he costs us less than £16 million. Very, very happy. He can't become an English national for us quickly, at least, which is going to be unfortunate. But again, nothing really to worry about. If you look at the attacking midfield position, he's technically our 5th choice. But if you take away the players that probably aren't going to play in that position, which will be Ferrari, Nato, De Jong and Rog, who is another new player this season I'll show you in a minute, he would already be the 3rd choice. And the fact that Lopez probably is going to be sold in a number of seasons at the very least, if Fernandes and Leonardo stay at the club, they'll be the first 2 choices, no question about it. And you take into Leonardo account that he's 23, he's older, which gives the fact that he's probably going to be here for less time. He's probably got a fairly good shot of being the first choice attacking midfielder. Then we have Stefan Tasic. Now I know full well I paid over the mark for him. It's £57 million to come join us. By far too much money. And I think that's probably one thing the club will regret about their signings. We've got Valentino Livramento, an English right back, who joined us from West Brom, I believe. Oh no, Espanyol. I don't know where West Brom from, but he joined from Espanyol for just under £15 million. I'll have to admit he was a good signing in the season we needed him, because we only had one right back at the club at that point in time, and we definitely needed to bring in a second one. Obviously Terry Alexander, another good signing. Admittedly, probably expensive, £67 million, but given the fact he's still, how old is he now? He's 19, I think. Where is he? There he is. Oh, he's 20 years old this season. Potential of 5 stars. He'd probably get that money back in tournament winnings and that sort of stuff and go from there, I think. Nestor, unfortunately, is injured at the start of this season, but he's only going to be injured for another couple of days. Not big of a deal, obviously, for the club going forward. £33 million, brilliant signing on my part, I think, because despite the fact he's going down on all of these except for long throws, which admittedly isn't great, but the fact that he's still an incredible player, £23 million value, 21, 5-star potential, I could still see him becoming a very, very talented footballer in the future, who's going to be going forward with the club, hopefully. The same with Yildirim, although I think I paid a bit less for him. Yeah, I did. Paid about half the amount of money for him as I did for Nestorov. Brought him in a bit earlier as well, and I think he was a better option, admittedly, for much of the season. Zahajovic is obviously going to be playing in the next fixture because Augusto is injured and can't, but he joined for £10 million, which at the time was a fairly substantial amount of money. Because if you remember, that's I think our first season in the Premier League was, oh wrong one, I wanted this one, 23-24 was I believe our first year in the Premier League, and we spent £10 million on one left back who arguably we didn't need all that much, but obviously he was a very important player for the next few seasons and definitely kept his position very successfully. Obviously now we've got Kane Ramsey, who came in at the same time Livramento did. Slightly more expensive, I'll admit, but as you can see, definitely a good player, definitely worth it. 24 appearances, definitely showed his calibre in the league, and was definitely very impressive, I have to say. We've got Plizzari, unfortunately, who is also probably on his way out of the club. 28-year-old Italian, £7.5 million, a very good player. Many, many clean sheets over the season. He's getting better and better as the seasons go on, but I'm just struggling to fit him in my head of where the club's now going, to fit him in the first team, especially with Lucas Weatherby now at the club, who is almost 5-star potential goalkeeper, still only 22, English national. I think Plizzari is on his way out. The same, I think, is the problem with Lilic, because Lilic is also only a 3-star maximum now. And, I mean, he played very few games with us. Don't get me wrong, 7 clean sheets, only conceded 5 goals, all 1 goal a game. That's not bad. I can't hold that against him. But I don't think he's going to be good enough to continue with the club at this point. and £21 million is probably overpaid a fair bit for him. But hopefully with him being a Premier League quality goalkeeper now, he should make that money back in terms of any sale we make of him. Sam Watson, a centre-back we signed, I believe, 2 seasons ago. Oh, 1 season ago. And he didn't play many games, I'll have to say, but he played enough to warrant the £12.75 million deal we made for him. Because he was definitely a useful player when he needed to be, and he definitely was a good enough player to hold his position for a few matches. Already showed you Lilic, obviously, who is technically, I was requested to transfer. I must have forgotten that. Not sure why I did that. But we've got Nuno Alvarez now, a 5-star centre-back, potential 2-star current ability, very good player, 18 years old, Portuguese national, £16 million value, signed him for just shy of 30 million. I think that's probably a fair amount of money to be able to sign an 18-year-old defender for, very strong player, and going forward he could be very well a good player in the future for us. Dale Dummett, a loanee currently out at Ipswich Town, one of our current affiliate clubs. We signed him for £24 million. Never played a game for us personally, but has been out on loan a number of times already for the club. He's already played a few games. He's been a good player for us. 4-star potential, current championship level player. Very good in terms of his capabilities in the future. And we'll see what happens with him, really. Jean-Claude Ayenga, I think he's probably gone as well. I don't think he's got the calibre and the capabilities to be able to be at the club anymore. He's never played a game for Millwall. He's been at the club since we got promoted, another £10 million transfer in our first season of the Premiership, and since then he's been on loan for 5 years at Amiens, and he's now on loan at Girona after Amiens, I believe, got relegated from Ligue 1. No, they didn't, they stayed up. But they didn't do well last season in the Ligue 1, and they didn't want him back for another loan, so we've sent him out to Girona for this season. Obviously now we've got Lewis Harrison, another youth player brought in for, I believe it was £15 million? Yeah, £15 million from Ipswich Town, who's got potential of 4.5 stars, 1.5 star current ability. He is an incredible 16-year-old Englishman who probably will be an international player in the future. I won't deny that. But yeah, at the minute he's obviously sub-12 because we had so many players out as well as injured for the last friendly that he was actually put into the side. Maurizio Santa Cruz, another player I think is probably on his way out of the club. Again, another player on loan at Ipswich Town for our affiliate position. He joined as well, that same season went up to the Premier League. He then joined Feirense on loan at Portugal, never played a game, then moved to Crawley, played most of the season but didn't really do that well with them. Moved on to Libertad, played a couple games, 19 games for them, then to Amiens, back to Libertad again, now on to what's that one called? Esquillon. Okay, just Esquillon. Moving on to them, 8 games for them, then back to Olympia in Paraguay again, then moving on to VfB Stuttgart last season. Suffered a really bad injury at the tail end of last season, that one there, the twisted ankle, at the start of that season, and he never really recovered properly from it, and his season faltered as a result. Then we've got Marco Rog, a new player for this season as a backup central midfielder. He was signed on a free transfer. He's probably never going to play many games, I have to say, for the team, but he's definitely going to play a few, no question about that. He's a good player, current. He's 82 caps for Croatia, is very good for the team, good experience for the team, because it's a very, very young squad. There's very few players above the age of 25. So he'll be one of the more experienced players at the club, especially in that midfield section, and he'll be very, very strong, I think, going forward. And finally, obviously, I'll admit a fairly useless signing for us. Abel, signed last season as a left-back when we had no available left-backs because they were all injured or suspended. As you can see, by no means Premier League quality. He was signing a free transfer from Real Madrid, so clearly, things had to have changed at Real Madrid for him to have been able to play 84 games for their B team. But what can you do? We signed him on a free transfer, and the 2 games he played, he didn't play poorly. He played very well in those 2 games. 6.85, got a player in the match in one of them, which was a surprise to me, I have to say. But also managed to get 2 yellow cards in one per game, which was rather entertaining. So that's the Millwall side, obviously very good side for us. Looking forward now with the club info, they've got a strong rise through the league, currently in 9th, 7th, 6th, 4th and then 3rd. We are on our way up. The next targeted position would be first place, because it's going 1, 1 and then all the way up to 1. Oh no, 1 will be actually second place and then up to first afterwards. Mateus unquestionably is our key player. Mike Denker, a player that I did bring in tail end of this, the tail end of last season, bring him in on a transfer for this season to start with, £12 million, very good player, and he's definitely a youth prospect, I can't deny that one either. Current facilities of the club, all state of the art except for corporate, but I don't actually know how you upgrade them because it doesn't come up in the facilities section for board requests, so I don't know what to do. They are currently, as I mentioned, building a stadium, or at least planning it at the moment, with a capacity planned of 42,500 seats, which is very nice, of course. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see it, of course, as been at the club for most of the seasons where they had barely 20,000 seater, moving on to a 30,000 this season. It's going to be important to get the new one done. These are all the affiliates of the clubs. I don't think you need to really look at them, they're not really that important. General information, I did make them to the favoured personnel. Obviously it's going to be a bit of a kick in the teeth that I'm now retiring as manager, because I'm now only just favoured personnel. I've done all this work that's caused a fairly large amount of money to come out of the club, but yeah, I think I've done very well at the club. As you can see, 53% win ratio, very nice of course. I've been here for 6 years now, which has just shown the level of dedicacy I've had to the club. Dedication, not there. I'll put my teeth back in. The level of dedication, not dedicacy, isn't even a real word, I've shown to this club, and it's a nice feeling to obviously have looking forward. As you can see, I've won the Europa League, I've won the Carabao Cup, I won the FA Cup. I didn't win the Championship. That really stung, because of how close I was to winning the competition. Going back to 2023, I was just 8 points behind them, but that season was so poor. I mean, if you look, 19th place, that's how bad we had the end of the season. We had 1 win from the last 5. That was very, very poor. But yeah, nothing we can really do about that, unfortunately. But yeah, I've done very well for myself. I've runner up in both the Champions League, runner up in that. I also got runner up in the Super Cup as well as the Community Shield. Again, I would have hoped to have done better in those competitions and won them, of course. But you can't win everything, as they say. And obviously, domestically, as you can see, over the seasons, done very well. I can't deny we've done incredibly well over the seasons. But obviously I'm on my way out now. I don't think any records, like proper ones like this, have been set in the last few seasons, but obviously we had 22 games without defeat in the Premier League last season. That was obviously very nice. Balogun, an old name you'll probably remember if you watched from the start of the campaign with Millwall. 30 goals in his first season under me. Quite a 26, that's in the league obviously, plus the 4 in the cup competitions. Did very well for us. Came back the season later, was nowhere near the calibre of play he was the season before. Then we didn't line him back the season after. We brought in a couple of new strikers, and as you can see, things just went better from that point onwards. Doyle, obviously, highest average rating, very nice, of course. Oldest player, Edin Dzeko, currently managing, reserve manager of Emjing, so he was manager of Scunthorpe for a while, but obviously lost his job. Obviously after that, we got assists from Tommy Doyle, most clean sheets by Plizzari, most players matches by Tommy Doyle, and oldest goal scorer Edin Dzeko against Middlesbrough. Very impressive. Obviously you can see £105 million spent on Weatherby. Alvaro is still at Paris Saint-Germain after being listed out for a transfer, although he's currently no longer listed for transfer, which is obviously nice to see. Played 107 games for us in his time at Millwall. Didn't play us in the first season, we signed him at the end of that season. Moved on to the season after, scored a few goals, scored a few more goals, scored even more goals, then just fell out of fashion and was sold for £72 million to the French Giants. Very nice, obviously. Obviously, you can see highest league position every year. First place, we were in first for a period in the Premiership last season. We've never actually, in our best season, we never went below 8th. But we have at one point been bottom of the Premier League, as you can see here in the 2024-25 season, which was a surprise considering how we did the season before. Highest attendance in every season except for last was 19,234, because that was the max attendance at the Den, obviously. Highest gate receipts, we did manage to break into over £1 million for our game against Bayern at Munich. Very nice, obviously. Lowest attendance, apparently we never went below 19,734 in our first Premier League season. That's not bad. Average attendance, you can see that was our first full average attendance. We never actually got that again, other than the season we got higher than that, of course. Results, highest results. Surprisingly, very few games with more than 4 goals, which is obviously nice for the opponents, but not nice for us. You can see here, not great, I'd admit. We've had a fair few, as you can see, losses: 3-0, 4-0, 4-1, 5-3, 4-1, 4-0. You know, it's not great. As you can see, most of the highest scoring matches were defeats or draws. Then we only had 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defeats or draws. So not bad. As you can see, highest scoring league game, of course. All wins except for 3, which were Bournemouth, Barnsley and West Brom. I didn't even manage the Barnsley and West Brom one, so not bad. I don't think we really need to look at these two, they're not really that important. There's things I've already mentioned before, all that sort of stuff. So let's move on to Boston for a quick look, as I believe this video is taking a rather long time. There we go, Boston United. So Boston United, they're in League 2. Not great. I believe there's only one player at the club who I signed, which was Darnell Furlong. He's the only player still there from my time. And even that, I'm wrong. There is no longer a single player at the club who was signed by me, apparently. I mean, James Barnes was technically signed by me, because I signed him on the way out of the club. I signed him this season here, and then I left at the end of that season for Millwall in that season, and that's when he first made his starts for Boston. So I didn't sign him. And yeah, well, I did sign him, but I didn't use him at any point. So it's unfortunate, of course. Unfortunately, the final holdout from my signings, Mile Vargic, the Croatian centre-back that I signed a number of seasons ago in 2020-21, he did leave. He left at the end of last season for arguably an underpayment. He's no way anywhere below £100,000. And I have to say I'm sad to see him go. He was the club captain for quite a long time at Boston. He was named as captain in 2023. So the year after I left, he was made Boston United captain. He was then stripped of his captaincy in 2027 and named as vice captain, which probably set in motion his want to leave the club, I have to say. But he managed to win the League 2, he managed to win the Leasing Cup, he managed to win the National League. He did very well, I can't deny that, he did very, very well at Boston. But as you can see, I joined this season, the very first season, promoted via the playoffs, then promoted top of the league, and then we slowly made our way through. That was my last season at Boston, 21-22. I finished in 14th. I thought I did very well. I left thinking I couldn't do very much more for Boston. Then the season after, they managed to finish 6th, lost in the playoffs in the semi-final. Then they won the league. And they went up into League 1, 11th, 6th, 5th. Both of these seasons they lost in the semi-final of the playoffs. Then they collapsed and they finished in 21st. And I was sad to see it. I was definitely sad to see it. I definitely was. Alfie Payne was sold, I believe, 2 seasons ago for an exchange. I mean, come on. We've gone to a League One club for an exchange from another League One club. And you can look at the difference in statistics. 16 extra games played, and yet 7 more assists, 2 extra player matches. Vastly superior average rating. Sorry, but there's no way he did better at Preston than he's doing at Boston. But he'll be glad he left, I'm sure, because of the simple fact being that they were relegated. So, yeah, of course that's not a good thing to see, of course. Not that one I want to see managers. So, obviously, when I was there, I managed to keep a 54% win rate. Very happy to see it, very impressed. I then left after 2 years, 250 days, and was replaced by David Artell, who I was surprised was sacked after doing how well he did. He was then replaced by Tim Sherwood, who won the Leasing Cup, nearly got them promoted, but then left to go to Blackburn, where he was sacked. That's comeuppance if ever I see it. It really is. Then he was followed by John Kennedy, who didn't even last 100 days in the position, before he was replaced by the current manager, Leandro Bacuna, who is probably not a great manager in terms of Boston United capabilities, as he's not done well at the club. He really hasn't. And I can't see Boston making their way back into League One. I mean, don't get me wrong, in the League Two they're currently in 5th place after a 2-1 win over Port Vale. But look at the teams they've got above them. They've got Swindon, they've got Orient, they've got Crewe, they've got Wimbledon. Just behind them they've got Colchester, Northampton, Bristol. They're not going back up first time of asking. I can't see it happening. So that's a nice look at Boston. Obviously, there's no point looking at the national teams like I mentioned before, because it just wouldn't make sense. So we'll have one final look at Millwall, as you can see on the screen here. We'll have a look at the finances quickly. As you can see, the finances this season have been placated, they've been stabilised, and the club is in no risk of any form of financial problems. There's no thing I can do before I retire, is there? No, there isn't. So, yeah, I think that's it now. So, once I click this button here, there'll be 5 more years of football. Then we'll come back. So, until next time, until the final ever episode of FM20's Nobody to Somebody campaign, I bid thee adieu. Goodbye.